So I'm logging into our browser. I'm logging into the IDE. You see, here's our IDE. So this shows me everything that's new that's been put into the system. These are all the apps that I have. And here is our lab. And the lab is where I'm going to put it together. So when I'm building a new application, we have DevOps all built in that allow you to plan and build and promote applications from dev to test to production. And instead of going through the entire DevOps process, I'm just going to build the application and part of it in front of you now. So I'm going to go into our lab. And our lab has some really neat things in it. Primarily our gallery, which I won't really necessarily get into, but it's a place where other customers and ourselves can share applications, pieces of code, parts of applications. So that OCR scanning was actually built by a company in Houston, Texas, and we used it in our demonstration today. And you can leverage this as well. So I go to my workbench, and I think it's really important. The closer you can get to the users, when you're building things, the better off you always end up being. So if you can prototype things in front of them, you can show them what's going to happen, you get a lot more buy-in before you're actually doing heavy lifting. So I'm going to build a workflow. These are the things you can build. So in the application that Ben showed you, we have some web pages that allow people to log in and look at things, and workflows as well. So I'm going to build a workflow. I'm going to call this EP demo, description, webinar. I'm going to hit save. It's been added. And here it is. So here is my easy process workflow. And here is the workflow canvas that we have. And you can see it's blank to start. But when you're working with users, and in this example, I'm going to build something that's pretty self-explanatory. It's an expense approval system. So we can start when you're talking to the users of, all right, who's involved in this? And we'll create swim lanes for them so they all know what part of the process they're in. So I'm going to build a swim lane here to start with salespeople. So sales reps. And who else is involved? And you can say, well, who else is involved is the sales manager. So I'll just write VP sales. And if it's over a certain amount, the CFO is going to get involved. So I'll create one for the CFO. And then finally, I'll create one for JD Edwards. So now I have swim lanes for everybody. And now I just want to hit start and bring this over to start our workflow. So the first status is going to be what happens first. Talking to the users, well, they're going to submit their expenses. I said, okay. And then I can wire this up and find out, okay, who's involved. We can talk about actors now, right? And then, but before we do that, let's talk about all the steps in the process. So the first step is submitting, and then what? Well, then the VP of sales approval. And then the CFO. And then JD Edwards. Apologize for my typing. Okay. So I have all these processes. So who are the actors in this one? So we can start and say, well, the actors are users, and the users are Steve, and the users are Nate. Well, Nate, and then we'll add Steve. And what are the conditions? So in our workflow, I want any expense that's under $500 to go to the VP of sales, and anything that's over $500 to go to the CFO. So we'll talk about now conditions, right? So the first condition is going to be under 500. And I'm going to say it is, what's the color I want to put it in? Blue. I'll add that. And then I'm going to put another condition on the right-hand side that says over, or 500 and over. And I'm going to say this is a green one. I'm going to add that. Well, now I just wire this up to the VP and to the CFO. You can see how easy it is to start here. So if I go to the VP, the VP is a user, and this allows us for all the email automation that's going to happen. His name is Suman. And the conditions are, he's going to have 3. He's going to have one that's going to say approve, and it's green. And he's going to have one that says resubmit. There might have been an error that he needs to see changed. That's yellow. And if one on the right here, it's going to say deny. And that's red. So we've created all his conditions. So an approval will go straight into JD Edwards. A resubmit would go back to the sales rep. We can make these lines look, a little easier to understand. And then a denial will actually go to the terminate. So we haven't added the terminate yet, so let's do that. And now let's do the final step is the CFO. CFO is a single person, and it is Kathy. And then she can do the same 3 things. She can either approve, make our color. She can deny, make that red, or she can say resubmit. We'll make that yellow. And if it approves, it goes straight to JD Edwards. And if we deny, it goes in here. And if we say resubmit, and I'll close this out so it's easier to see, right, it's sent back to the salesperson. So now we've got at least our flow going. Now we talk about, all right, how long should all of this take? Right. So the VP, and we go down here in our operators, you can see 2 things. You can see expected completion and escalation. So the VP should take no more than 2 days to do his step. And so we're going to say we wanted to escalate it after 3. And the CFO is a little more important. We can say he gets 4 days to approve it, and then we'll escalate it after 5. Now, the last piece, the JD Edwards piece, we're actually going to make that an automated piece. So that will go straight into accounts payable once it's all approved. And we'll make our one condition, let's say end, and we'll make it green, and we'll hit add. We'll send that to the terminate as well. But the goal of being able to do this is to be able to get buy-in from users before you start doing anything serious like building the forms or building any of the potential logic behind it. And you can see it's incredibly easy to do, right? So right now I have built this workflow. I have also built in all the reporting. All the charting is now already built because I've put in expected completion and I've put in escalations. So all of this is already constructed, and when they actually buy in, then you can go in and create any other binaries or any of the logic that goes through with it. So, but there's an important part to this that I want to talk about in kind of the next and final piece. When we talk about workflow and improving trust. So that's how easy it is to design our workflow. And I didn't write a line of code, and you wouldn't write a line of code to do anything else. So let's get back to this demonstrations piece. And we'll talk about an important topic, like transitioning from low trust workflow to high trust workflow. So right now, as you saw, this is somewhat similar to what I built. This is a workflow that's well audited, that has escalation, that has anticipated times for completion, but it's somewhat of a low trust workflow because there's only one piece that's automated. And you want the system to start working for you as much as humanly possible. So you can put this together, but it is incredibly easy to change and maintain and say, instead of this being an automated step, or instead of this being a manual step where someone has to log in and assign a voucher, why can't we do that? Why can't we automate that as well? And the same thing with receiving emails. Why can't we automate that as well? So the only thing that you end up seeing is when things go right or things go wrong. So managing that move, and we call it automating up the ladder, right, is very easy with Easy Process because the prototype that you're using and the logic behind that are two separate events. So I can change a manual process to an automated process without having to change the workflow statuses really easily, right? And so you get to that point where we start having what we call optimized workflow, where it's not a workflow system anymore, it's actually becoming an exception management system. So you're only notified when you actually have to do something. You don't have to interact with the system anymore. And I tell you what, Orchestrator is helping this a lot. So the first step, though, is always just at least to get a workflow in, to start measuring your operational effectiveness, to start building trust. And then when you go and you start moving from a low trust system to a higher trust system, to the point where you're only there to be there if something actually goes wrong. You're not actually interacting with the system. And that's when they talk about JDE working for you. I know Oracle talked a lot about that in the last set of meetings. That's what we're getting at here also. So here we are with something to consider, right? Find a workflow that you have, whether it's just automating paper processes, whether it's taking steps out of a system. We can help. Right? We have a way to connect our platform to your system, and we can engage and design this together, and you can show people what is possible. And it is no charge event for us. As a matter of fact, if you go to our website, you can fill out a quick form and you can try this all for free. We're all cloud-based, so you don't need any hardware in your world to set this up on. We give you free training and mentoring to get started as well. So with that said, we'll go into Q&A, and I know there's a couple questions. So the first one was, how do you integrate the JDE? So that's a great question. We didn't talk about it that much, but we can integrate. We have very tight integration. So obviously Orchestrator, but we can also integrate it through business functions, BSSV, if you're still using those. We can integrate to your tables directly. As you saw in the demonstration, we were querying the address book. So we can integrate through Z files, and we also have all the access to UDCs, named event rules, Julian date conversions. All of that's already put together. Second question, can you do parallel processing? I did talk about this earlier, but yes, we can. So if you have workflows that involve multi-steps of parallel processing, we can do it. So what kind of skills do you need to create these? So it's a no-code environment. So anyone, if you're a business analyst and you really know how the system works, if you know the database well, you know the system, this is a great fit for you. A programmer can take to it even easier because you're not writing code to do this. You're just doing it 2 or 3 times faster. How much does Easy Process cost? It's a question we get often, and I will bring it up here. You go to our website. In here, we have all of our pricing put together. So it starts as low as $1,200 a year. So the barrier to entry to getting into Easy Process is very low. And you can go through, if you have a calculator, you can figure out how many users you have. But every time we sell this, whether it's for $1,200 or $100,000, you get the same thing. You get 3 environments, you get our cloud, you get our support, you get all our updates, you get unlimited developers, and the 3 environments you need to go from dev to test to production. So you can go there and find out as much as you like. And do we have professional services? Yes, we do. We have a whole team of professional services who can help you. If you want to do this, but you don't have time, we can do this for you as well. So that was all the questions. I don't see any more. So with that said, thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate the time. I hope you learned something today. If you have more questions, that is my email and my mobile number, or go to our website. You can learn a lot more. But thank you very much. Take care and have a great day.